My mother laughed first. A short, sharp laugh, the kind that isn't really about something being funny, but about something being satisfying. The kind of laugh that says, "We always knew this would happen." And, "Aren't you embarrassed?" And, "Did you really think it would go any other way?" My father followed, quieter. But there, my sister covered her mouth with her hand, but her eyes were dancing, and that was worse than the laugh itself, because at least a laugh is honest. I was sitting in a leather chair in a lawyer's office on a gray Tuesday morning, surrounded by my entire family, and I had just been told that my grandfather, the man who had called me his little architect since I was 7 years old, the man who had driven 3 hours to watch every single one of my university graduations, the man who had whispered to me at his 80th birthday party that he was proud of me in a way he couldn't always say out loud, had left me nothing. $1. A single dollar with a handwritten note that said, "For bus fare." And my family laughed. I sat very still in that leather chair. I did not cry. I did not stand up. I did not say a single word. Because I had learned something a long time ago about this family, and about this moment, and about what was coming next. And what was coming next was worth waiting for. The lawyer cleared his throat quietly and said 4 words that changed everything in that room. "If you'll please sit down." Before we dive deeper into this story, I want to ask you a small favor. If you're new here, please hit that subscribe button right now. We are on our way to 2,000 subscribers, and we are not even halfway through. Every single one matters deeply to me. And if this story already has you feeling something, go ahead and tap that like button. It takes 2 seconds and it truly means the world. Thank you. Now let's get into it. I need to take you back to understand why that laugh hurt the way it did. I grew up in a house with one unspoken rule that nobody ever said out loud, but everybody understood completely. My sister Priya was the favorite. Not in a subtle way, not in the way that requires reading between lines or interpreting body language, or wondering if you are imagining things. In a loud, obvious, completely unapologetic way. Priya got the bigger bedroom. Priya got the newer school supplies every September. Priya got driven to her dance classes while I took 2 buses to my after-school art program. When Priya wanted to study fashion design abroad, my parents remortgaged part of the house to fund it. When I got a full scholarship to study architecture, they forgot to mention it to relatives for 3 months. I remember sitting at the dinner table the evening my scholarship letter arrived. I had placed it carefully in the center of the table, between the salt and the pepper, where it could not be missed. My father moved it to the side to make room for the bread basket. My mother said, "That's nice, darling," and asked Priya how her dance rehearsal had gone. I ate my dinner quietly, and excused myself early, and went to my room, and sat on my bed, and made myself a promise. I was going to be so good at what I did that one day they would have no choice but to see me. Not for their approval. I had stopped needing that somewhere around age 14, but for my own satisfaction, for the version of me that deserved to be seen. I graduated top of my class 4 years later, built a career in architectural design that grew steadily and quietly over 7 years, started my own small firm at 31 with 2 partners and 3 clients that became 12 clients within 18 months. My family knew I worked in architecture. They did not know much beyond that because they had never asked beyond that. The only person in my family who ever asked was my grandfather. My grandfather's name was Edmund. He was a quiet man, in the way that only people who have seen a great deal of life become quiet, not from having nothing to say, but from having learned exactly when to say it. He called me his little architect from the moment I told him at age 7 that I wanted to design buildings when I grew up. He never stopped calling me that. Not when I was 17, not when I was 25, not at his 80th birthday party when he pulled me aside from the noise and the cake and the photographs and held both my hands in his and said quietly, "I see everything you are doing. I see all of it. And I need you to know that. I had held on to those words for years. When he passed peacefully in his sleep at 83, I grieved in the specific way you grieve someone who truly saw you, not just with sadness, but with a kind of gratitude so deep it aches. His lawyer called our family 2 weeks after the funeral to schedule the will reading. I dressed carefully that Tuesday morning, not to impress anyone, just because I felt my grandfather deserved that small respect. I arrived at the lawyer's office to find my parents and Priya already seated and already talking quietly amongst themselves in the way people talk when they have already decided how something is going to go. My mother glanced at me when I walked in. "You came," she said, not warmly. "Of course," I said. I took the leather chair across from the lawyer's desk, and I folded my hands in my lap, and I waited. I want to pause here for a second, because I know some of you listening right now have had someone in your life, maybe the one person who truly saw you, and you know exactly how rare and precious that is. If you have ever been overlooked by the people who were supposed to love you most, drop a comment below and tell me your story. I read every single one, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please do it now. We are building something special here together, and I want you to be part of it from the beginning. The lawyer's name was Mr. Adeyemi. He was a small, precise man with reading glasses that he kept pushing up his nose as he worked through the document in front of him. He read methodically, deliberately, the kind of man who understood that the words he was about to deliver carried weight and treated them accordingly. My grandfather had left his house to my parents. My parents nodded. Expected. He had left his car and his savings account, just over $180,000, to Priya. Priya exhaled slowly. My mother reached over and squeezed her hand. Then Mr. Adeyemi looked at me over his reading glasses and said, "To my granddaughter, $1 for bus fare." One beat of silence. Then my mother laughed. Then my father. Then Priya, behind her hand with her dancing eyes. And I sat very still in that leather chair and I did not react because I had learned slowly and painfully over many years that giving people the reaction they are waiting for is the greatest gift you can give them. And I had stopped giving this family gifts a long time ago. Mr. Adeyemi did not laugh. He pushed his glasses up his nose and looked at my family over them with an expression I can only describe as the very specific patience of a man who has seen exactly this before and knows precisely what comes next. He cleared his throat. He turned a page, and he said, "If you'll please sit down, there is a second document." The laughter stopped. My grandfather had prepared 2 documents. The first was his standard will. The house, the car, the savings account, the $1 note with the handwritten message that was never meant to be cruel, but to be a signal, a marker, a way of saying, "Keep reading." The second document was a private letter of asset transfer that he had signed and notarized 14 months before his death. In it, he had transferred full ownership of 3 things to me directly, bypassing the will entirely and therefore bypassing any contestation. The first was a commercial property in the city center that he had purchased quietly in 1987 and never spoken about publicly, valued currently at $1.4 million. The second was a private investment portfolio he had been building for 31 years, 1 year for every year of my life, currently valued at $890,000. The third was a handwritten letter addressed to me personally that Mr. Adeyemi passed across the desk with both hands. I held it carefully. I did not open it in that room. I looked up from the envelope and across at my family. My mother's face had gone completely still. My father was staring at the desk. Priya was looking at me with an expression I had never seen on her face before in my entire life. It looked very much like the realization that she had spent 31 years laughing at the wrong person. Mr. Adeyemi folded his hands on his desk and said quietly, and without any particular emotion, "That concludes the reading. Congratulations to all." I stood up. I smoothed my jacket. I picked up my bag and the envelope, and I walked to the door. I turned once, not to say anything, not to give them a look or a final word or a moment of visible triumph. I just turned because I wanted to remember exactly what this looked like. Then I walked out into the gray Tuesday morning, and I sat in my car, and I opened my grandfather's letter, and I read it alone. And I cried for the first time since his funeral. Not from sadness, from being seen. And that is my story. $1, 1 second document, and a lawyer who asked my family to please sit down. Let me be honest with you now, because that is what this channel is built on. If I were in this situation, what would I have done? Exactly what she did. No reaction in that room. No tears. No confrontation. No speech. Just stillness. Just patience. Just the quiet confidence of someone who already knew something the room didn't. Because here is what I want every single person listening today to understand. You do not need to defend yourself to people who have already decided who you are. You do not need to argue your worth to people who have chosen not to see it. You do not need to prove anything in the moment they are laughing. Just wait. The second document always comes. And to every parent listening to this today, I say this with love. The child you overlook is watching everything. Every laugh at their expense. Every achievement you move aside to make room for the breadbasket. Every moment you choose the favorite so openly that the other one stops expecting anything different. That child is not broken by your choices. They are being built by them. And one Tuesday morning in a lawyer's office, you will find out exactly what they built while you weren't watching. Love your children equally. See them equally. Before the second document arrives, and it is too late to be part of the story. Now I want to hear from you. What would you have done in that room when they laughed? Would you have said something? Or sat still like she did? Tell me in the comments. I genuinely want to know every single one of your thoughts. If this story moved something in you today, please like this video right now. It genuinely helps more people find this channel and hear stories like this one. Shout out to everyone who subscribed to this channel. I really appreciate. I will see you in the next story. Take care of yourself, always.